Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Apex Racing TV and to the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship Season 4. And we're here for the 5th round of the championship, would you believe, at the esteemed Watkins Glen circuit in the US of A. And we knew this was going to be a popular decision to have this track right around here because, of course, the official special event is starting this evening and tomorrow. So we've got a strong field of cars lined up to take to the track. The championships across all three categories are super close. We're very excited to see how things develop today. My name is Jack Canal, alongside me as always is Sam Fitzpatrick and John Robertson running the cameras in the background. Sam, like we expected, plenty of Lmp2s taking to the fields today, and I think it should provide for some good racing overall.
I think so, and these guys are going to know this circuit so well, which I think should bunch everyone together. You know, you're going to have a much more competitive field if everyone is up to pace compared to if it's a new circuit which some of the drivers are still learning. And it'll be interesting for the LMP1s. I mean, the LMP1s wouldn't have necessarily really done any laps around this place, seeing that the Glen 6 Hours don't run those doesn't run those cars. But could be good as well. Could see a few more of them out there compared to last week. Have a look at the championship standings, and well, it was Lucky Brown winning again last week, Jack, but I think possibly the most important thing was that Jack Wells wasn't able to attend, and therefore the championship lead switched hands.
Yeah, and as you can see, Lucky Brown with the 2 wins in a row is now 10 points ahead of the championship in front of Jack Wells, who is back today. Lewis Araya holding on to 3rd on 119, and Wilhelmsen and Stolberg in 5th, rounding that out. So it's still very close at the top of the LMP1 field, but Jack Wells, as he said, missed a round but has the chance to come back now. Here's the Lmp2 Pro standings, as you can expect. It is Daniel Kraft at the top of the 196, but Daniel Civizawa was keeping him on. It's just 13 points back on 183, still very close between those two. Matthias Berg keeping on us there in the 3rd for Apex Tech, and it's Pure Sims, and then 3 Apex Tech cars all together. Lauritsen and Ibram within a point of each other, with Brian Pigments on 109, so very close in there. And LMP2 AM, you can see it is Thomas Mork at the head of that field, who's 15 points in front of Jake Shuri, with Morten Kafud just a couple of points back there in 3rd as well. So this is what we'd like to see, I suppose, Sam. It's still very close across all championships. At no point does any gap exceed 15 points. It's still very close.
Yeah, I think that P2 AM one, for me at least, is the most exciting one, because I think we've had quite a change in speeds in terms of who's been the fastest in that one. And Shuri, the last couple of weeks has been really impressive, and I think even though he is 15 points behind at the moment, certainly has time to get those points back. Of course, there is a drop score in this championship as well, so if you miss a round, you can get away with it. But obviously, if you're getting a 0, then that puts a lot of pressure on you for your other 8 races. As we are seeing the drivers currently in their qualifying session, a few lap times have already been set. These cars are so quick that they can lap this well, yeah, absolutely is the full boots layouts here at Watkins Glen in just under 90 seconds, at least for the P1s, just over for the P2s. And it's good to see Nicole Foggy as well. I don't think we've seen Foggy since round 1. I might be wrong on that one, but he certainly had a bit of an absence. And at the moment, at least in the practice times, Jack, we've got a lot more competitiveness in that P2 field, because so far this season it's really been quite a lot of dominance for the top 2 in the championship, the Pure Sims Esports cars. But they've got some catching up to do. As can Kraft prove me wrong, go to the top of the standings? No, he can't. He's 6th place. He's demonstrating my point, but well, that wasn't a legitimate time to be fair.
No, it certainly wasn't. Yeah, very, very good time for Foggy. He was up the top in practice as well. Alexander Lauritsen's currently 2nd. Matthias Berg currently 3rd in that as well, as it is very close, or was close in the P2 AMs. It's now Sorensen at the top. Here is Loki Brown, 3 wins from 4, and he's now trying to make it another win, but he's got some work to do today. He's got a bigger field. We've got 8 LMP1s on track today, as here comes Loki Brown to the line. Lewis Araya to the top currently, and Loki Brown goes a 24.48 tenths off. Now, Lewis Araya does have a pole position to his name already at Daytona, but that didn't exactly end well for Araya, but really good time. And there is Jack Wells, the man who was leading the championship going into the previous round, but today is 10 points adrift as they hop over the curbs in that bus stop chicane. They're so vicious in prototypes. It's so easy to get spat out wide. You got to abuse them as well, but it certainly hurts, or would hurt in real life, going over them. As you see Thomas Sorensen currently the quickest of the P2 AMs. As you can see, the P2's taking flight over the curbs there. You've got to have a lot of trust in the car to make it worthwhile. Smith 2nd, Mork 3rd, Cafode 4th in P2 AM, and quite close across the field, excluding the LMP1s, but I think that's encouraging for the moment, Sam, until I expect Lucky Brown to bang in another time. But I suppose it is really encouraging that we have the LMP1s much closer than they have been over the past 2 rounds. Yeah, this has, and I don't like to bring, as Foggy does, another lap, albeit it's only a few hundredths of a second faster than his previous lap. I don't like to bring Formula 1 into this too often as well, so it's to 2nd place. But this does feel like maybe Mercedes during the era of dominance, where maybe they're not fastest in practice, and Q1 and Q2 what go one way, and Crofty's saying, "Oh, we got a battle here. Maybe one of the 4 cylinders is going to take pole," or something stupid like Crofty says. And then, obviously, the team Mercedes go a 2nd lap quicker than everyone else, and anyone who's got a brain realises that that was always going to happen. I feel like that's going to happen with Brown here, but let's see. I don't know. We haven't got quite as an established dominance for Lockie Brown, but we know he is so quick. He's crossing the line now. I think he's just starting a lap. Yeah, he's just starting a lap now, as Brown. So this will be, well, it depends if he's got enough fuel. He should get 2 more laps in if he wants to, but this might be his last lap if he is just going for, if he's only got fuel for 1 lap. Yep, as he comes down towards the bus stop chicane, he'll be very committed through here. So let's see how committed Lucky Brown is now. Gets turned in, takes a flight over the curbs, goes through down the hill, looking good. Daniel Kraft up to 2nd now in P2 Pro, 10th off, 31.2. These are quick times, by the way, across the board for the P2s. In the 31s, low 31s. Track temp is quite hot, as you would expect around here. As we see now Lucky Brown, let's see if he can take another pole to add to his tally, but it is less than a second covering all of the LMP1s. Now, of course, we do have some drivers in the P1 category also taking qualifying bans this week as well. So it's not just the guys you see on screens right now. We do have some that are also taking qualifying bans this week, which will bring them into the mix in the race. Go towards the last sector now. Again, commitment needed through here. You can use a lot more of the circuit on the outside there if you so wish. Track limits, of course, updated earlier on last year. Lucky Brown comes across the line, 24.1, still not enough 4/10 off. So it seems right now advantage Porsche by the looks of it, Sam.
Maybe. I think you're right. As Savage puts in a terrific time to go P2. That'll be the end of his qualifying session. I'm just disappointed because that whole spiel I was doing about how drawing lines between himself and Mercedes, absolute nothing right there. So sorry everyone. And well, we've got a proper race on in the P1s. How good is this? We haven't seen this since Daytona. As Crafts, can he improve once again? This is his second lap on those tyres. And maybe he was feeling it a little bit. He does a 31.6, about 4/10 off his best lap time. Still got Tim Perry lapping around right now. Driver also, I think, in the GT3 trophy. I think he's trying that one this season as well. Tried a lot of different Apex Racing League. So he's former champion, of course, in this championship as well. And he improves, but he's still a way off the top 5. Araya, I don't think he's got any opposition. He's the only man on circuit, is Luis Araya, but he's going to try to put a bit more distance between himself and the others. But looking at those second times, Jack, I don't think he is going to.
No, not by the looks of it. He's safe. Luis Araya with his second pole position of the season. So congratulations to him. Took pole position in Daytona about a couple of rounds back. Unfortunately, didn't pay off for him then, but really good stuff from Luis Araya, who takes another pole position to add to his tally. And I think we're going to be in for a really, really intriguing race now. Everyone within about a tenth of each other across the board. And here is your grid then. Luis Araya on pole position with Jack Wells in second, out-qualifying Loki Brown, his championship rival. Leno Wilhelmsen in fourth. And here come the qualifying bannies, Matt Loveridge, De Philippis, Josh Lane, and Stian Solberg. They round out the grid. It's Nicole Foggy who takes the pole position in P2 Pro in front of Daniel Civizabo, and Daniel Croft starting third this week behind his teammate. Alexander Lauritsen taking fourth place, and Matthias Burke then fifth, and then it's Sorensen who takes pole in P2 Am, Harley Smith in second, Jake Shuri in third. And it's Tim Perry and Morten Kafud, and Thomas Mork a little ways off his championship rival there. Shuri getting a couple of cars between himself and his championship rival, Fabio Corsetto, Justus Marks, Paul Clist, and James Ibram, rounding out this 23-car field. So the AMs, I have to say, really getting in the mix there. But I think Sorensen, a really good qualifying from him, I have to say.
Yeah, really good qualifying. I think he may have said, I think it's his first qualifying, first pole of the season, as far as I'm aware. Certainly Smith last time out, he was a bit of a late entry to the championship. But yeah, imagine Mork being down in 5th place in class a few weeks ago. I mean, he looked so imperious back at Daytona, really dominating. I mean, sure, he had to serve a pit lane start, if I recall correctly, on that one. And even at Lmp2, he was leading as well, wasn't he? But just these last couple of weeks, he seems to have lost his momentum. Maybe hasn't done quite as much preparation for the 6 hours as some of his rivals, and it's left him with a bit to do. But fortunately, he's got that 15 points advantage in the championship and a 1-hour race to move his way up through the fielders. Looks like James Abraham, unfortunately, isn't going to take to the grid, so he should have 22 cars taking the start.
Absolutely. So pace car rolls off. We're not getting the full formation lap this week like we did at Sebring, but we're
checked.
we made sure this week.
Round of applause, please, everyone, because I thought, no, we're not going to do that again. And yes, it is the short one, so thanks for pointing that out, Jack.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's looking much better now with 8 LMP1s, a large field, and it is quite a short run of the line here. So of course, we will have the start zone in effect as well, so they have to wait until they get to the area that was marked out in the driver's briefing before they can go. Luis Araya going to be in control. Remember what happened at Le Mans Let's see if they get away cleanly this time. Araya in full control. Loki Brown staying in behind, and away they go. Jack Wells not getting away well at all. And Loki Brown immediately going to try and start to challenge for the lead in the Audi. Up the inside into turn number 1. Side by side, Araya leaves him room on the inside. Loki Brown from third to first within the first corner. Jack Wells trying to get up underneath him there as Loveridge now gets himself involved as well. As now we go back to the P2s at the front. It's Foggy in control, with Civi Zabo alongside him and Kraft behind. It's a really long run to the line. Foggy's leaving this very, very late to go, and he goes now. Civi Zabo not getting the best getaway there. Kraft not going to get blocked off by his teammate there as they come down in towards turn 1, and they all file through very clean indeed. Apex Tech coming in behind there as well. Sorensen leading away the AMs there in the mid-pack. A clean start for the P2s, very, very clean. Overall, they all get through safely, and Foggy leaving that very, very late to go as Wells battling it out here with, that is, I think, Matt Loveridge, who's trying to get himself involved in this fight as well as they get up towards the next part of the circuit. But yeah, really, really great start from the Audis. I have to say they've all got away very, very well off the line, and especially Matt Loveridge, who always tends to get in the mix somehow.
Ooh, Shuri has had a problem, and that is our P2 man in the P2 field in the championship, and well, I think he's escaped damage there, but he's got a lot of catching up to do to Daytona over again when he had to start from the back, and now he's going to have to start pretty much starts at the back tonight as well. As Will Helmson, I think, was probably the one Audi who did not get away well, and he's just been overtaken there by Stian Solberg. They're both catching up to the back of Josh Lane, who has had a strong start, and developers just dropping off these guys slightly. Got some catching up to do, but remember, a few of those drivers did have to, weren't able to take part in the qualifying, so taking back their rightful positions. As here comes Matt Loveridge around the outside using a bunch of boost and the draft as well, and he does move ahead of Wells. And with these 3 battling, this is allowing Loki Brown to start to make a little bit of a gap out of him.
Yeah, he's not getting away as quickly as he was last week at Sebring. Araya staying with him in the draft. Loveridge, we know how fast this man is, and nearly took the win away from Jack Wells at Daytona until a late spin took him out. So these guys know each other well. They've battled hard, and Wells is going to stick in behind him now to sort of try and save a bit of fuel potentially. He's actually kind of trying to come back at Loveridge now as they come down to the right-hander. It's brave stuff to go around the outside here. He's going to give it a go nonetheless. There's space on the outside. Contact with Jack Wells, and into the wall he goes on the outside. Has he avoided damage? I'm not sure if he has. He's bounced off that tyre wall pretty hard. But Jack Wells drops down the order now back into the middle of the P2 field. That's a couple of laps. That was, of course, Josh Lane who got past him there as they come through now. Does he peel at the pit lane? Hard contact into the tyre wall, and he is going to carry on, you would imagine, but that is not what he needed for the championship.
Well, I think by that reckoning, I think that's his first instant of the season, isn't it? Because we were saying the first 2 rounds, he certainly didn't pick up an instant point, as he's going to go for a move up the S's there. But as Thomas Mork has now had a problem, so our top 2 in the P2 field, in the championship at least, I've had problems earlier on. I did not see Mork go off the circuit, but I may just have not been looking at the time screen at the time as Loveridge is off course to check. That's surely a slowdown. I'm not 100% sure what the rules are around that part of the circuit nowadays. But, well, he seems to be keeping his foot in it. Now gives way to Araya, 1.5 seconds to the leaders. And also Wells getting past Lane in the background, so Wells seems to be strong. But yeah, I think that's Wells' first instant of the season because he didn't take part last week. Here's what happened to Thomas Mork. He was in the pack and he's just lost it by himself, and that's hard into the barrier. Had to tow back to the pits. We'll get a faster player. We'll see him back out on circuit later on, but he'll be a lap down on his rivals.
Yeah, it's not been a good opening lap for the championship leaders overall. We've had Mork end up with his own incident. We've had Jack Wells end up in the barrier briefly. He's managed to carry on. He's still P4, but the only ones who've got clean away really have been the P2s at the front of the order anyway. Foggy from Civi's Alba from Kraft, and you can see here these are biggest movers. Actually, at the moment it's Paul Clist up 3 from where he started in 4th. In P2 AMS. Sorensen, as you can see in the P2 pros, none of them have gained or lost anything in the top 7 there, so they've stayed exactly as they have been at the very start. No overtakes and no positions lost overall. There is again Loveridge and Araya swapping positions now. Now, ideally, what they need to be doing is trying to work together. That's a big off for Loki Brown.
Wow.
That is Brown. That is massive. into the barrier at the bus stop, and I think I know what happened there. Those are those vicious curves. That is a horrendous accident for Loki Brown.
Saw a driver in the F4 Championship the other day die. Yeah. And this is another merger over the curve, as you say, or as predicted, and then he kind of got caught in the fencing. That's a humongous crash for Loki Brown. That car, can you imagine that in real life, would be absolutely obliterated right there. So he's back to the pits. That's the end of his chances of winning this race. And we've now got the top two. Haven't yet won a race this season, but Wells is charging along. I'm amazed how solid that car is. We saw a P2 smash into the wall last week, didn't we, Jack? But I didn't realise the P1s were just as strong.
Yeah, they really are. Jack Wells carrying on, and he can't believe his luck now, because that is every single championship leader except for Daniel Kraft, who has crashed so far within the first 5 minutes of this race. As we see now, Jake Shuri, he's got an opportunity now to gain some points on Thomas Mork. As you can see, look at the gap back to Mork is humongous, and Shuri, of course, he ended up off the road on lap number 1. And he's now chasing after Justus Marks, who's in front of him now. So all Shuri needs to do is keep it together. He took his first win last week at Sebring and can now try and get back on it now. Solberg trying to get past Josh Lane around the outside of the bus stop. It's not quite going to work there. And it is tricky to go around the outside, especially with the new curbs. And see, Phil Helmson tries to go around the outside and gets it all wrong on the outside. Gets caught on the grass and ends up with some damage on the left-hand side of the car. Very, very easy to do and to overcommit on the outside. Phil Helmson, I think he has managed to survive, thankfully for him, and carries on virtually unscathed with a little bit of left rear damage right there. So well, it's been a hectic first couple of minutes, but after that, it's now going to carry on, really, because all of these guys have not moved positions across the board. But as you can see, Daniel Kraft, he's sort of dropped back, hasn't he, from Sifi Zabo up front. He's not in the draft. He's not quite in the draft. And he has got a lot of pressure from Alexander Lauritsen, who's up behind him. And this will be an interesting fight now. It'll be a battle of strategy. I think at the moment, Foggy's got the measure of everybody.
Yeah, he looks really strong. I think it's clear that Foggy's just done a lot of laps in preparation for the 6 hours. That might be why he's been able to attend this meeting, not the previous meetings. And all those laps will just make us so comfortable. He will be preparing to race probably 3 hours tomorrow. This one will feel like a sprint in comparison, and he's going to be very tricky to beat. It's very warm out there though. Maybe Taiwan might play a little bit of a factor. And Sirisabo is at least giving himself a chance to beat. I imagine Sirisabo would be quite happy just to beat his teammates and maybe more pressingly championship rival. But yeah, really good to see all these guys fit and healthy. The Apex Tech cars had a great chance at winning back at Daytona, of course, but unfortunately were involved in a collision, I think, with each other. Ooh, that's a little bit of a tap for Burke into the wall. He'll escape too much damage there, but you can see how much he is pushing all these guys, keeping tabs. And yeah, they've also got Thomas Sorensen in the P2 AMS keeping tabs.
Certainly have Solberg gone out wide in the background there, but carries on. But yeah, as you mentioned with tyre wear, track temperature currently 46 degrees Celsius. And as you can imagine, especially in the Lmp2s, the left front tyre takes a beating around here with it mostly being right-handed corners. So it'd be interesting to see who manages to look after the tyres the best here, because tyres will play a big factor towards the end of the race, I would imagine. But I'm sure these guys have factored all of that in. Will be very much prepared. There is Matt Lumford, who leads the race after, of course, he served his qualifying ban and is now at the head of the field. Let's see if he can bring it home for a first win of the season. But he's still got a long way to go until we get that. We're just reaching the 10-minute mark now, starting to catch up to the LMP2 traffic now. Let's see how they're able to negotiate it. And you can see Araya just dropping back now, behind to about 1.8 seconds. Every gap sort of strung out a bit more now as they carry on to the 10-minute mark, but I can imagine that those gaps won't stay that way for very much longer. To the hectic first 5 minutes of the race. The leaders in each category: Loveridge, Foggy and Sorensen still at the front of P2 AM, who has managed to hold off the pressure of Harley Smith, who was right behind him for a good chunk of the first couple of laps here, but has kept his head and is now starting to edge that gap out a bit more. But crossing the line, 10 minutes gone. Matt Loveridge for the Lewis Araya, and Jack Wells still running well in third. Doesn't seem to be losing too much time. As you can see, Araya matching, and actually, funnily enough, Lmp2 has held up pretty well because he's actually the fastest out of the leaders at the moment, Jack Wells.
If you could get some, well, I love this graphic. It's such a good graphic. Gets to see what the gap is, and you can see how strong Loveridge is. I don't think in Apex Racing League history I've ever had a driver who's won a race from the pits. Maybe an amateur race from the pits, but I think an overall class victory, and of course this would be an overall victory as well. I don't think I've ever had a driver start from the pits. I guess he didn't start from the pits, so it was a qualifying ban. But again, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a driver win from a qualifying ban. So this would be a potential first for Loveridge in the 3 years of the regeneration of Apex Racing League. So he's got a chance at a cool record here. But yeah, Araya still 2 seconds behind, but consistently losing time. But he is, well, he's also losing time to Wells, so maybe it's just going faster due to the damage that he's got on that car. By the way, quick shout out to Apex Racing Academy, one of the sponsors for this series. Apex Racing Academy offering 29 data packs. I think it might even be more than that now that we've got into the new series, or the new iRacing season. So as we've got a car in the wall, who is that? It is Grosseto, who gained a few places earlier on. He's going to have to go back to the pits, and he will not make it to the end of the race from here. He will need to pit again later on, but he has got a fast plane. He didn't have to limp around too far, at least in the time. But yeah, back to Apex Racing Academy. Got 29 data packs available for various different cars. A couple of the new cars as well are being covered, like the Mercedes GT3 and GT4. The Lmp2 cars, which you see out here today, are also covered, like GT3s, rallycross cars, single-seaters, including the new Formula 4 car. Those stuff covered by Apex Racing Academy. You can also join the solo coaching sessions and group coaching sessions, which are really useful to get some tips from some of the best drivers in all of iRacing. So do check out apexracingac.com in order to get yourself a bronze, silver, or gold subscription. As we watch Daniel Silva said, with that gap to Foggy staying incredibly similar at the moment, neither of them giving an edge.
No, really good to see that these guys are keeping in touch with each other, and if one of them makes an error, then the other one is going to capitalise. You can see the top three all together. Lauritsen still keeping tabs as well. You'll see the times of the cross the line. Sivi Zaba with the fast lap of the race, actually that time by on a 31.8. Daniel Kraft on the 32.0. Lauritsen on the 32.4 with the personal best on that time by, but Sivi Zaba starting now to maybe just start to apply some pressure to Foggy out front. And this is, of course, a big race for Sivi Zaba in the championship as well. If he can outscore Daniel Croft, then he'll really close the gap down. It stands at 13 points right now. It could be very much closer, maybe even swing in his favour, depending on where he manages to finish today. Still very much a chance at a victory if he can keep it a bit nice and steady. If he manages to look after the tyres, especially looking after the fuel around such a short track around here, saving some fuel can mean a lot, but still plenty of time yet until we see pit stops that will allow them to get safely to the end of the race. And gaps across each lead battle are sort of stable. They're around 2 seconds each at the moment. Sorensen controlling it at the front of P2am, and it'll be interesting to see if he's able to clinch a first victory as well. We're looking right now, this is good potential here, Sam, because across every category we might have 3 new winners for each category.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and that would be that'd be great to see. It's certainly looking likely in the P2ams, isn't it, right now? Yeah, Foggy just needs to hold his own at the front. Super consistent on that lap, I think. Matched each other to the 100th. The top 2 drivers there. You can see it on screen. 7 thousandths of a second. The difference between the two of them, really pushing with all that they've got right now. By the way, so in the YouTube chat, Koi here, asking, where are the GT3 boys? Well, it's the wrong broadcast, but on Apex Racing TV we do broadcast plenty of other GT3 action. one that comes to mind, of course, is the Apex Racing League GT3 trophy, which was on Tuesday, and we had 58 GT3. So if there's a lowness of or deficits of GT3s out here today, I mean, go to the Tuesday series, and that should quench your GT3 thirst. And we've got loads more rounds of that as well. 11 more rounds of that every Tuesday for the next 3 months. So do check that out. Subscribe to our channel in order to get notified about that. The top 3 are getting closer. They were even closer a few laps ago. Wells managed to get to within about half a second a few minutes back. But now that they're going through the traffic, just separating out a little bit. But now Araya has to be held behind, and Wells will make up a bunch of time through that corner. But now it actually might be Wells who gets held up through the penultimate corner, as we've got Solberg running very wide, trying to make his way through the traffic, trying to get past Lane as well, but making a bit of a mistake round the toe right there. Apologies there.
Yeah, it is tricky, and as you can see, the traffic is playing a big factor, especially when the P2s are still so bunched up that it is very easy to get caught up in the wrong places at the wrong time. And it has definitely worked out for Jack Wells, who has managed to almost close into the draft of Lewis Araya as they come down. And as you can see, one of the Pure Sim cars getting the benefit of the draft. That was Civi Zabel getting pulled along by Lewis Araya. Wells going to have to try and get through. He's going to have to be a little bit brave here, go around the outside, which he can certainly do. And he does make light work of that in the end. But going to be committed to get past some of the traffic. It's nearly easier to get past the GT3s because even at the end of the straights, the P2s can almost match the P1s in a straight line, so you've got to catch them in the right places. And Araya catching the leader, Foggy, in the right place. Wells going to have to be committed on the brakes here if he wants to get through, and he does get past. Gap evens out to 2 seconds now, so it's sort of gone back to where it was, but now that has dragged Jack Wells into the slipstream of Lewis Araya, which is exactly what he didn't need. On board now with Jack Wells, and as you can see, the Porsche just sort of, the Araya is just sort of boosting away a little bit now, trying to get away from that slipstream, but he has managed to actually boost his way much closer to Loveridge now. A second and a half separates the leaders, and it will certainly get a little bit closer. 26-2, 26-7, 26-7. Still Matt Loveridge in control, but they're still not separated much. There is only about 3-4 seconds covering the top 3, but they've got no pressure from behind. And it's Josh Lane who is almost a good 20 seconds back, and you can see Wells really closing in down the straight. He's now going to start mounting some pressure, getting so close to that barrier, running a little bit wide on the exit. You can really use all of that curve on the exit, and Araya getting that a little bit wrong on the exit. They're just pushing, just having a little bit of mid-corner understeer. He's pushing himself out now. Wells keeping it tight to the left-hand side on the power early, and running up towards this uphill right-hander, using the camber to help you turn here. Get it nice and slow down on the power early as best you can. Araya a little bit wide on the exit there, but gets away with it. And then one of the trickiest corners to get slowed down and turned in for here. Down onto the brakes, get it turned in. You can use a lot of runoff on the left-hand side here. He goes all the way out to the left-hand side and up into the heel. Slowed down, very hard corner to get right. Wells really closing up through there. Up to the left-hander now they come. Towards the second last corner. Through he goes up towards the last corner. Down a gear, flings it in. And he has definitely closed the gap on that lap at Araya, just boosting away a little bit. And just, it's tactical boost usage across the lap, as you can see. But Loveridge is still very much control out front on a 26.1, just extending it by a couple of tenths each lap. But you can see how each of them are using their boost differently, trying to get away from each other, but very evenly matched across the board. But looking likely that Loveridge is very much enjoying himself out in clean air out front. But as we saw with Loki Brown, who is down at the tail end of the field, one mistake and you could very much end up, for want of a better term, dead.
Yeah, yeah, dead would be merciful for that car. Absolutely, yeah, one of the biggest crashes I think we've had this year. So, if we ever do a compilation, that would certainly be involved. There's Sorensen. He's actually extending the gap over, so a super impressive drive this from Sorensen for 3J1K Racing. And of course, his strong pace sort of suggests that probably Morka's been practicing a lot as well. And yet, Sorensen has just been faster. He's been faster than his other teammates as well. Watson Kavode, he is currently 11 seconds clear of. And on that last lap, that being pretty similar, it was actually a bit of a poor lap that last time round for Sorensen, but still with over 3 seconds of an advantage. About 20 minutes into this race, this is where you can start to think about coming into the pits. The theoretical best pit stop strategy is to put the maximum amount of fuel in for the start of the race and go as far as you possibly can, and then take a little bit of fuel at the end. But if you're in traffic, maybe if you're Jack Wells and have some damage, can be worth coming in around the 25-minute mark, which would mean that you'd spend more of the race with more fuel, but you get your car fixed and you get at least a different part of the circuit. You might have more traffic, you might have less traffic. That's when it really helps to have spotters and good calculators to figure out where you're going to come back out onto circuit. So yeah, we're kind of getting into that territory at the moment, but a few more laps I think till we see the first few sort of damaged cars come into the pits.
Yeah, there is Hartley Smith. He's been sitting second since the very beginning. Was challenging Sorensen earlier on, but he's sort of just fallen off a little bit, but he's very comfortably in second now. 3 seconds to Sorensen, but a good 7 seconds back to Martin Kafode, who's running in third place. Jake Shuri's recovered back up to 4th place now, as this is really good points for him, if points gain against Thomas Moore. This will really spice up the P2 AMs going into the final few rounds, and especially coming into the last half of this race as well. We're 22 minutes in, almost, still a ways to go before we see some pit stops for the P2s, with a bit of P1s possibly coming in a little bit earlier. We have seen them going a little, even in a couple of rounds ago, we even saw them going further than the P2s on fuel. 4, let's see how that equals out, but still gaps still very close across the board if we are to compare them between Le Mans and Sebring. At this point, I think the gap to the leaders was about 20 plus seconds, and now it's about 2 seconds. So it's come down very much in the past week or so. So it's great to see the competitiveness starting to come out across the couple of categories, and we still have ways to go in this race. So there's still pit strategy to take into account, and I think, I'm not sure, it is an interesting little scrap between Lewis Araya and Jack Wells, because there is times that Wells gets really close, and then Araya goes away, and then Araya pulls away, and Jack Wells comes back at him, and all the while they're sort of scrapping amongst themselves, Loveridge is sort of just starting to gap away a tiny bit, but the gap is really stable. To be fair to Lewis Araya, he has managed to find some pace in the last lap or so, and has really now is starting to put some pressure on. You see the flashes of lights at the leader, 26.4. You can see it now. Loveridge, you would imagine, was caught in traffic on that lap, and Araya has really pulled about 0.8 of a second on him on that lap. So Loveridge cannot relax at this point.
Yeah, and that was all in the last sector. You may have just seen it in the corner of the screen. That Loveridge, I think, had to go around the outside of Paul Clist around the final corner, and that's really risky to do. A lot of corners around this circuit have nice tarmac runoff areas which you don't get any penalty for taking, but on that one corner you have got to wall in. Yeah, that lost him 0.8 of a second, also lost a little bit of time in the first sector, but then you have a massive change in the first sector this time, 1 second faster for Loveridge. But it's very tricky to tell, is that boost or is that legitimate? I think that was a bit of a mixture, because Araya did have to overtake Clist himself down into turn 1. You'll just see that airborne flow each lap. Usually it kind of neutralizes itself, the energy usage. Usually the drivers will use the same amount of energy per lap, but just in different areas. But also sometimes I guess they will save a little bit of energy as well for maybe the following lap, so they can start the next lap with a full battery. Here is some traffic to deal with. Grosseto, who of course hit the wall earlier on, got a brand new car, but will have to make another pit stop. Will Grosseto later on? He's actually catching up to Justus Marks in the Lmp2 category, overall category. But here comes Wells. He's gained lots of time. He's now using the boost. Can he get past Araya? He's looking to the inside, but has to back off. And now both these guys will be straight on the boost button coming out of turn 1 and scampering away from one another. But now they're going to catch up another. I think that's a P1 actually just in front of them. I think that's... or maybe it's not, maybe it is a P2, my bad. But here comes Wills, he's right on the tail, he backs out a bit, now he applies the boost for a second time halfway down the straight, and Wills moves ahead and into P2. Let's have a couple of good corners here towards us so that he's not vulnerable from the boost of Araya. But that has taken a little bit of time for Wills, but he was patient and he took his advantage when it came.
You wanted a visual demonstration of how much the boost gains you when you use it. There's your answer. Jack Wells moved up to second, and I think it was really interesting while they came across the line there. The top 3 in P2 Pro all set personal bests on the exact same lap, and they all set a 31.6. So Foggy, Suizabo, and Kraft really consistent at the front. But as you can see, Jack Wells now up to second place, and this is an opportunity now for him to try and catch up to Matt Loveridge, because I think he has got the pace to do it. You can see he's already starting to gap Araya just a little bit as they come round the next set of corners. He is pushing on a little bit now as they come round to begin another lap. We'll see Loveridge tends to apply the boost in the first sector with the Audi, and we'll see 26.3 and the 26.4. You can see he's very close to the times of Loveridge, and we'll see if he's able to maybe gain that back in pit stops. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But Jack Wells, despite bouncing off the tyre wall on lap number 1, has seemed to have got away with a faster car overall compared to what he had at the very beginning. Araya is still sticking with him though, just behind the pole sitter, of course. So he's still got plenty of pace, we know that, so he'll keep himself honest. Loveridge though has opened the gap now to 3.5 seconds. Araya really putting pressure on him though as they come into what we call the shoe section, I suppose, or the boot section. And up towards the right-hander they go. Well, it's just trying to gap him there. A little bit of boost potentially used there. And Araya just trying desperately to stay in the slipstream. As long as he stays there, he has still got a very good chance here. And he is doing that very, very well indeed as we get up towards the half-hour mark. And gaps strung out a little bit more now. Foggy very much control of P2 Pro, Sorensen in control of P2, and this is really the closest fight we have on the circuit right now for second. Round the last corner they go again. Will Araya try and swap back again? I don't think so. No, Wells using the boost down the main straight. 2/10 lost to Loveridge on that lap, and Araya matching Loveridge for almost to the 100th there, but very, very close indeed. But Wells desperately trying to get away, but maybe using the boost a little bit too early might leave himself vulnerable to Araya. You can see is closing towards the bus stop chicane, just sort of half coming out of the slipstream as they come down to the bus stop chicane. And he's happy to sit behind for now and wait and see what happens and see if Wells has got the pace. Right now, top 3 very, very evenly matched on pace.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the fuel conservation is like for between the Audi and the Porsche, but we all see they're so close that could maybe lose Loveridge the lead. I mean, even just with the tow that Wells has been getting, he'll probably have to take less fuel at his pit stop. So Loveridge is just about clear, and it does always look like a big gap in these LMP1 cars because they are so quick, but he is not far clear at the moment. He is still very much in the mix, as well as has a good middle sector of that lap, or middle part of that lap at least, to pull away slightly. This man has just been having good corner after good corner. He's 3.7 seconds clear now of Daniel Suizabo. He is making this one look fairly easy right now. 0.3 of a second faster on that last lap. Looking at this lap, 200ths faster in sector 1, 600ths faster in sector 2, I think a 10th faster in sector 3, and that was a personal best sector 3 as well. He's just a little bit faster on every corner, and that's how you want to be when you're out in circuits where you've got pretty much absolute dominance out there. By the way, Grosseto did manage to get past Marks, and we might see a battle between Kofod and Shuri coming up a little bit later on. Shuri is yet to go into the pits, but of course has had issues. He is catching up slightly. Yes, Foggy has to slightly turn out of the penultimate corner as he actually stays ahead of De Philippis right there. De Philippis not quite confident enough to do that penultimate corner. And Foggy just showing how quick he is. He's managing to keep off an Lmp1 for a few corners.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. You have to be very clear at what you're doing in Lmp1. It's going to get a little bit interesting now. Paul Kliss just getting himself in the mix there, and it should be De Philippis should be able to get past here, but just struggling to get past this P2. There we go. There's the Audi just soaring past eventually. Of course, De Philippis just trying not to get himself involved. You can see through the corner. Look how much that Foggy closes up and is right on the tail of that P1. He's going to get a bag of understeer through there. That's horrendous as you go through that corner, especially the left front is going to be not in great shape at this point in the race now. They've got to be very, very mindful of that with the understeer you're going to get from that. But Foggy, you can see he is definitely keeping up until the Audi then eventually boosts away. The P2 and Foggy very, very quick in this combination. And De Philippis carrying on down the order. You can see now, very smooth overall from Foggy. It's on the brakes, very easy to lock up through here. The car seeming very, very nicely balanced through there. Barely any movement on the steering wheel on the way out. Very easy to lose traction. And now to the last corner. Lots of confidence in the front end there, right out to the wall. And has a lot of trust in the car. And is very, very comfortable. They're 32.1 on that lap, still very, very quick. And using all of that curb that you're allowed to use in turn 1. And is lapping. That is a big chunk faster, isn't it? Only half a second quicker than Sivisal on the lap.
Yeah, Sivisal had a poor lap that time, and it was actually a second quicker the lap prior to that one, so maybe involved in a little bit of traffic. We are now in the second half of the season, by the way. 4.5 meetings in, and I've got 4.5 meetings to go. As Buffrich decides to come to the pits. Interesting. It's just shows how little damage Wills has got. That he hasn't decided to take his faster pit early. Instead, he's decided to stay out as long as he can, because he doesn't feel like he's losing anything. I wonder if he will use his faster pit. I think he will do, but it is often worth it when you're in a championship hunt to save your faster pit until you've got terminal damage. But it does not seem to be slowing him down at the moment. Well, still ahead. And by the way, just if you are watching this and you're thinking, this looks like fun, then come join the series. You can sign up at apexracingleague.com, where you can also sign up for our F4 championship on a Saturday evening and our GT3 championship on a Tuesday evening. So go to apexracingleague.com to sign up, and you can also join our Discord server using one of the links in the description below. And if you click on that, then you can join our server and you will see whenever a new series or a new event is announced. So lots of coming up for the rest of the year on ARL, as well as going to have to get past the 229 here of Thomas Mork. I'm not imagining, well, Mork is currently last out of the P2s, not a position I imagine he was thinking he'd be in earlier on. We can wait to see if Will's going to have to come into the pits. You'd imagine they're going to be pushing the fuel, seeing that the race leader came in on the previous lap, but seemingly not. Will's and Araya carrying on, and maybe that's just the better fuel consumption for the Porsche. I guess if De Philippis comes in, that will show us a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, it does seem to be that way. And actually, all on that lap, Wells just extended the gap slightly, so he's now in clean air and is now working to make sure that he has a shorter pit. He will have a shorter pit stop, so we're going to take that into account as well. This is a big one for Jack Wells, because this could again will flip the championship back in his favour if it stays this way. Of course, with Loki Brown down in last of the pecking order in P1 after his humongous crash as well, catches up to a P2 in slightly the wrong spot. That's Harley Smith he's getting past there, who's second in P2, and Sullenberg moves in position 2. Brown, they're actually fighting it out for 7th there, but they managed to eventually sort it out. Jack Wells, who started second, now trying to get up the order here. As we can see now, Foggy in from the lead of P2 Pro, and Sivisal staying out. Lauritsen following them in, And on that lap, Daniel Kraft, personal best, 31.653, and he's closed the gap to under a second to his teammate. Now, any sign of Wells coming in? Absolutely not. They've really managed to get this fuel going long, but obviously maybe Loveridge just going for that early stop where he knows he can get to the end on the fuel. Time's looking good, the gap looking stable at the moment across the board, and they are definitely opening that gap out to Loveridge at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out for them. Wilhelmsen on the back of De Philippis and trying to get himself past for fourth, and he does. He gets past relatively easily in the end, so Wilhelmsen moves in front into fourth place in the P1 category. Interesting to see now, Foggy has pitted and come out. Matthias Burke has also pitted and is on his way out as well. So I do like when this happens, Sam, when we get split strategies across everything.
Oh, for sure. And I don't think Siri Sabo and Kraft will catch enough to the former race leader in order to get themselves back ahead. But, well, it might come down a little bit. What was Foggy's pit stop? 25.25, little bit longer than Matthias Berg. So they might make up a second or so. Here comes Siri Sabo. Now this, I think the big thing is, can Kraft get ahead of Siri Sabo? Because their teammates, it's not the easiest circuit in the world to overtake this one, because you got that bus stop. That's the fastest part of the circuit, but you need to be fully alongside. It's so risky going for a move, let's alone between teammates, and so I think that will be something that they consider. Klist has crashed. You can see he's lost half his car. I did not see that crash out on circuit, but he has crashed, and that's why he's back in the pits. I think he's turning back. Should see him back out on circuit later on, as interestingly, tyres being taken there by Daniel Kraft, so that might leave him with a little bit more to do later on. So I assume Siri Sabo will get out of the pit stall a little bit earlier as Gusette exits the pits.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's a bad call, honestly. Sorensen in as well from the lead. There goes Foggy, and he is going to take the lead. And you can see Siri Sabo has also taken tyres, because the Kraft also coming out at a relatively similar gap right there. And I think there was absolutely no way they were taking those tyres to the end. The track is so hot. It is left front is not going to be in a good state. Now, overall, I think they gained maybe about a second, so I think they have all taken tyres in the pit stops by the looks of things, and they will carry on. But Sorensen is clean out in front in P2 AM after his stop. They've all kind of come in around the same time, and now, wait and see, but still Jack Wells, and he's actually opened the gap out further, even further to Araya and to Loveridge at the same time. So this is working out at the moment for Jack Wells. Let's see, does he pit now? He is coming in now, so Jack Wells is into the pit lane. Will Araya follow him? And imagine he would. Yes, in he comes. And it's very important that you get slowed down for that pit lane. It's a little bit earlier than you think it is at the front of the pit lane there. But big stop for Jack Wells now. We'll see if this will work out for him. Loveridge at about a 37-second gap back. And let's see whether they decide to take tyres. Wilhelmsen, I definitely seen taking tyres in his stop, so into the pit box he goes, gets a stop. He misses the box slightly. That could be a crucial one there. He has to reverse in the pit box, and that's cost him about maybe half a second to a second. That could be big overall. Little things like that might just be the deciding factor. And Loveridge, as you can see, on his way around turn one, and Wells is going to lose that place, and that is a humongous gap that Loveridge has got now.
I think it's about the same as it was, 3.7 seconds. It's always deceiving when they come out of the pit lane. They cut off a lot, and that P1 just gets underway so quick. He's got a lot of traffic to deal with, though, as Jack Wells. I think that mistake probably lost him about 2 seconds there, because as Araya's still stationary, so he has, I assume, got a speeding penalty. Oh, geez. So Lane has already taken his pit stop. He's coming around the final corner at the moment. He might drop down, so that is a big shame. Araya had a chance at the race win tonight, but that is a fatal blow, and he is not going to have a chance now. He should get P3. He's not far behind Josh Lane. I think he'll easily catch by the end of the race, but that's a big shame there for the Norwegian, who was held for an extra 40 seconds. So yeah, definitely a speeding penalty, or maybe because the pit entry line. I'm not sure how strict they are around this circuit in that regard. So Araya, yeah, got a lot of catching up to do. Interestingly, despite Loveridge coming into the pits earlier, he was actually stationary for 1 second shorter than Wells. So it seems like Loveridge did have a lot of fuel left in the tank and just decided to pit a little bit earlier, which is an interesting call, seeing that I don't believe he took tyres.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some have taken tyres, some have not. So interesting to see how it all flips around. But yeah, Lewis Araya again. I think we have the problem, Sam. He needs to stop qualifying on pole because every time he has, it's gone wrong for him. So let's see if he takes our advice next time and just qualify second or something, just a little bit further down. It might end up working for you. But at the front of P2M, there is Thomas Sorensen, and he's had a relatively untroubled run so far. He's 3.7 seconds clear of Harley Smith. Morton Cafold is still third, but the gap between himself and Shuri is about 4 or 5 seconds between those guys. Thomas Mork is now back up to P5, so he's worked his way back up there. But it's going to be pretty much an impossible task to catch up to Jake Shuri unless there's a problem for him. So a sort of damage limitation for Thomas Mork overall, but still a point gain for Shuri on the cards. He's catching Cafold at a tiny margin, about a couple of tenths per lap, but nobody is catching Thomas Sorensen. I think out of everybody, he's been the most dominant overall. He's held the lead since the very start and stayed there, and he has one of the largest gaps across all the categories at the moment.
Yeah, you wouldn't guess that he hasn't won a race this season. He has been brilliant as Thomas Sorensen. Now we've got another Sorensen in other leagues. I can't remember if that's the same Sorensen, but also an MX5 and I think GT3 driver as well, and F3 and F4 driver actually. But I cannot remember if this is the same Sorensen. I think it's quite a common name. Hopefully we'll have a chat with him later on, and what an awkward interview that will be. Wells is 3.3 seconds behind Loveridge on that last lap. He gained by 0.7 of a second, but traffic is playing such a part that you've got to really look at it at maybe 3 or 4 laps to ensure that they both come through traffic, as that is a P2 in the wall in the background. Now Hugh is stationary, and we've also got Josh Lane. Oh, apologies. That was Nicole Foggy from the lead. Wow, we were saying how nothing could stop Nicole Foggy out on circuit.
No. But
it has. And he has made a crucial mistake here, heading into the chute. And, it's a car spun round in front of him. It was the 229 of Thomas Mork. So Mork, the leader of the championship, he may get a penalty for that, which will not help his aspirations. And Foggy would have seen the yellow flag, but it is completely blindsided around that corner, and he had absolutely nowhere to go.
What a change of events. There's Mork, so he lost it by himself on the way in, and is now trying to perform a 3-point turn. Starts to go, and Foggy had absolutely nowhere to go there. That is such a shame for him. Controlled everything. And Mork, unfortunately, this has been a terrible race for him. Here's the onboard. This is what Foggy would have seen coming into the corner. He's turned in already, and he will turn in, and there's absolutely nothing he can do about that right there. He doesn't know where to go, and unfortunately collects Thomas Mork on the way through, and that is him towed back to pit lane. And that has unfortunately nearly brought it back to business as usual. Pure Sims at the front. Zabo leads from his teammate Daniel Croft, but that gap now is only 9 or 8 of a second. So this is now a big chance and a big opportunity that has been given to Zabo to really close the gap in the championship up to his teammate and get another win under his belt. But Daniel Croft is keeping himself honest. He's always there, and that's what the championships are made of, is always being there to collect the points at the end of the day. And Foggy, unfortunately, got a feel for him, has been the class of the P2 Pro field all day. Unfortunately caught up in an incident that was just not his fault and completely unavoidable, but that is unfortunately racing. That is what happens, and especially when you come into a corner like that. If there's a car parked across the road, there is not a hell of a lot you can do about it.
No, and you know, maybe new sim racers may look at that and think, hang on, he had like a channel on the inside, why didn't he just go straight? But obviously when you approach the car and the car ahead of you is actually covering the inside, you're going to straighten up the wheel. It gives you the best opportunity at slowing the car down, and it's just the normal reaction, and unfortunately made contact, so that's a big shame. And also, if Mog's already used his fast repair, he might not get to the end of the race. And for those people who haven't read the great literature that is the Apex Racing League Prototypes Championship rulebook, then if you finish more than 2 laps down on your car class winner, you score no points. You could be eligible for 40 points in that scenario, but you score no points. You're classified, or you're not classified in the results. And if Walk's already used his fast repair, then he will not get that, which would mean that would be a huge points loss. And in terms of if you're not considering the drop score, he will undoubtedly lose the championship lead, maybe even drop down into 3rd position. So big changes in the P2 AM field. I'm waiting to see if Mork is rejoining the circuit, but I don't think he is. He's going to need to rejoin the next 30 seconds if he is going to stay within 3 laps. So that is really bad news for him right there. This is the battle right now for P5 in the overall P2 standings. Now, it doesn't look like that on the timing tower because Perry and Smith are in different categories, but that is Smith just ahead of Perry here, and this is 4 points. I think it's a 3-point difference in this position, so there is an interest in Perry to get past. These two have been very evenly matched for the whole race, but just recently Perry seems to have got the upper hand, and he's getting a strong toe here down into the heel, braked later, and that was fairly easy, seemingly a little bit of struggling there for Smith in these later stages, and we'll see if Perry can catch up to Sorensen as well by the end.
Yeah, he may be able to do that. Gap to Sorensen's nearly 7 seconds for Harley Smith to deal with. So it looks like Sorensen managing to open the gap out further. And Shuri's also closing it a little bit more, Morten Kafur, but not really enough to trouble him until unless he starts to really gain now. But a podium for Jake Shuri would really help his championship. It actually would flip the championship in his favour if we have a non-score for Thomas Mork. So big opportunity for him to after taking the win last week. And of course Shuri's had his fair share of bad luck as well. Remember Le Mans, obviously lost a huge chunk of points there as well. So there's a lot still to go. But I tell you what, it's getting interesting up the front, because you can see Jack Wells has suddenly, I think he definitely used his faster pair, because there's definitely more pace in this car now than there was. 1.6 seconds the gap, and he's pulling 3 to 4 tenths out of Matt Loveridge each time. And it'll be interesting to see. Jack Wells, of course, is going to be pushing to get himself in the draft of Loveridge and maybe challenge for the win here, and again flip the championship back in his favour, and see how that will end for them. But really good stuff from Jack Wells, considering what happened earlier. And funnily enough, maybe it'll happen again, because the contact was in fact between these two.
Yes, I'm struggling to remember all those laps ago now. But how well has Wells done since they was around this corner? Actually, was close, wasn't it? Wells hitting the wall, and he's gained lots of time on this lap. Every single lap, Loveridge is very quick through the first sector. He gains about half a second through the first sector, and then the rest of the lap is all Wells. So, and there's a demonstration on this lap. Way faster is Wells around everywhere, bar the first sector. I think the Audi just dumps, well, I think it's deliberate from Loveridge. He dumps
Loveridge has damage.
And he's actually got damage. He's hit the wall somewhere, and that is a bit of a damp squib, because Wells takes the lead, and Loveridge has got significant damage, and he might even be under pressure from Araya. I can only hope he hasn't used his fast repair. That must have been at the final corner, because that's the only place where you have a wall, and it's and of course anywhere else, and he would have gone straight into the pits. This is hemorrhaging time right now for Matt Loveridge, and it's a great shame that he isn't going to be able to get that first race win of the season.
No, once again, and under pressure, Matt Loveridge makes a mistake, and it happened right in front of our eyes. We just didn't quite catch it on the camera angle, and it would have been in that last corner, so we're going to ride on board. It's a mistake that everybody has made. If you haven't done it, you're lying, as he comes down towards the last corner now. So he'll come towards the last corner, and I can only imagine he's going to understeer into the outside wall here. He's going to turn in. Car's not responding at all, and there it goes, bang, into the wall. I would wager, I don't think Matt Loveridge took tyres on the pit stop, and I think that may have been his undoing. We may have to possibly ask him later on, either that or the Audi really not liking that final corner. But yeah, just understeering straight into that outside wall, and you can see now he's lost 10 seconds to Jack Wells, who's now in a huge, comfortable lead. But all he's got to do is survive the last 10 minutes, and Jack Wells is gonna get a win. But Loveridge now coming into the pit lane, and that will certainly lose him second in this race if he hasn't used his fast repair. We'll find out. If he has used his fast repair, that's going to be a very lengthy repair time, but it'll gift Lewis Araya back his second that he lost earlier.
Well, it depends if Loveridge has, that fast repair, but I think he's going to be out fairly quick. Araya won't quite catch up in time. Here comes Loveridge. Will it magically reform? Yes, it does, and he should be straight back out as long as he's unticked everything. And he is back out. So he is all right from Araya, but the gap is fairly close. Let's see if Araya can catch by the end of the race. Loveridge gets a big advantage by catching that first corner. Oh, look at all the PTs right in front of him. That's an unlucky place to be. Well, that's, yeah. So he gets past the 1-2-2 of Daniel Kraft. He'll have Darren Kraft's teammate Civi Sabe just ahead as well. And that's also Grassetto with the Italian flag on the inside. Grassetto also getting out the way of the other P2s. Oh, big side for Araya. That's a fantastic save. Oh, now there's contact, and that's going to take Kraft out of contention for the race win as well. Kraft just getting caught out. The LMP1 so slow in front of him when they're usually so quick out to the corners, and Kraft rejoins the circuit, and Araya's chance of P2 go down the track.
And that has ended the on-track battle, or every on-track battle within the first within a couple of minutes. Yeah, Araya gets loose midway through the chicane, and yeah, I think Kraft was just caught out by how slow the P1 was going. He was expecting him to get back to full speed a little bit earlier, but that's the way it goes, and has dropped him out of contention for the win, but has gifted Civi Zabo a bit of an advantage here. Wilhelmsen and De Philippis still trying to fight it out here for P4, and they will try. And now, interestingly enough, Loki Brown is out fully, so that is going to be no points for Loki Brown today, and that is going to be Jack Wells with a humongous championship lead gain now for him. He's going to flip the championship back to him as Wilhelmsen gets past De Philippis and is now into P4. But as I just mentioned there, Loki Brown has dropped out completely, and yeah, that is a big that's a massive blow for him.
And this is how, oh, it's not going to be the same corner, is it? Took too much curb here earlier on, and, well, it's actually the second curb this time. And similar results, hard into the wall. Well, I mean, it's good to see a driver vulnerable for once, isn't it? But all of Lockheed's mistakes coming here at Watkins Glen, I doubt he's been able to do too much practice. It's also, of course, a new circuit, this. You had the old Watkins Glen, but the curbs around that part of the track, you got to totally relearn it. So I imagine that's probably what's costing Brown here compared to, you know, Spa and, well, we didn't see him at Daytona, but certainly Spa and Le Mans, where he's probably visited that 4 or 5 times a year for the past 3 years, however long these LMP1 cars have been on the service. And then he comes to this circuit which he may never have driven in the past. So that seems to have unsettled him. No doubt he's going to be strong for the rest of the season, but honestly, I think if Wells wins this and then finishes second place in all the other races, I think he might win the championship. I mean, even with the drop score, he has put himself into a very tricky position for this season, has Loki Brown.
Yeah, definitely, and I think he'll rue the mistakes he made today, but we have about 6 minutes left, and Shuri has most certainly caught up to Morten Kofod, and that is a big move for championship as well in P2 AM. If Shuri can get in front, get himself on the podium, and of course, as you can see, Thomas Mork is out completely, so that is a no score at all for Thomas Mork, and the more points Jake Shuri can get today, the better for his championship chances, and he could very well flip it in his favour if he does manage to get in front of Morten Kofod. He's been working away at that gap for the past well, for the best part of the whole race, and has nearly managed to drag himself into that draft range. So we'll see if that works out for him or not. But I think ever since that Le Mans incident, Sam, I think maybe Lady Luck has smiled on him a little bit.
Yes. So is this in relation to Shuri?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're right on that one. And well, yeah, it's getting close now. What was that last lap? 1 second faster. Shuri was, well, I think was closing quite a bit in the very early stages. Then it seemed to be momentum conveyed, and now very much back to Shuri. Got Loveridge and Araya catching up to them behind. Araya's catching very quick now, isn't he? Apologies, that's just our time screen. Don't read that. That's the live timing showing 11 seconds between them. So just a little bit of a glitch there. But no, Shuri catching up big time now to convey the gap under a second. It's good that whenever one battle dies, a new battle needs to arrive onto our screens. And this one, I think, is going to be very alive by the time they get into the following lap. Of course, not teammates are these two. They are absolutely fighting for themselves, and it would be big advantage for Shuri if he could get past Kafed. I wonder if Kafed would actually move ahead of Mork at the end of this race with the points difference. I think it'd be close between the two of them with yeah, of course, like you were saying earlier on, this man with a healthy advantage.
Yeah, you can see how much he closed up through the left-hander there. Very much in contention now with about 4 minutes left on the clock, on board with Jake Shuri now, as he gets a huge amount of understeer through the last corner. As you can see, really fighting the front end through there. So the tyres are screaming enough, but they've got to get a couple more laps. He's locked up into turn 1 as well, as we right on board with him there, and just runs out wide and loses that draft. So yeah, Shuri's really struggling with the front end of the car here in the dying stages of this race. And yeah, it is definitely difficult when you're chasing another car as well to keep the focus on the car in front of you. Hop over the curbs here, very close to the guardrail, very nicely through there. And this is where the left front is going to be screaming, coming through. The right hand has to downshift to third to get the car to turn in through that part of the circuit. So it looks like it could be a bit of a struggle for Jake Shuri here. He's strong in certain sectors, but I think his left front is completely done on that side of the car.
Yeah, it seems to be a common theme down the field, doesn't it? Whether you're in a P2 or P1. It's so warm. These conditions, so the practice started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in Sim, and the race started at 3:10. So you can imagine that's one of the warmest times of the day. We'll be getting a little bit cooler as the race goes on, but I mean, we're not far away from the summer solstice, so it stays warm for a long time, and I can testify to that sitting down here in Norfolk, which I'm sure is is nowhere near as close to the equator as New York State, around Madrid level. And so basically, it's going to be very warm for a very long time. And good luck to the drivers tomorrow, especially if you're watching along and you're racing tomorrow. Good luck to you to get the race all clean. Before we get to the end of the race, I will give another shout out to SDK Gaming, the providers of our overlay. You can see the brilliant graphics that we have up on screen. We've been using a few of the other ones as well, the battle box, the kind of heads-up display whilst we're riding aboard with a driver, the pit stops coming up at the participant times, the time comparisons. There's so many elements to SDK Gaming. It's been developed over really the last many years, but I remember first using it about 5 years ago, and just keeps on getting better and better. Constant updates, fantastic work from Pascal Higlin to constantly be working on it. And yeah, it's certainly kit that you want to buy if you're broadcasting, if you're streaming, or if you are just racing. It's fantastic as a heads-up display. So big thanks to SDK Gaming, and do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk in order to get yourself a subscription. I'm still sure it gets a little bit closer every single corner right now. They're not actually too far behind Harley Smith, who I think is struggling even more than these guys. I think that left front that you were talking about earlier on, Jack, I think Harley Smith's probably got the worst one out of the entire field because he's losing a second lap to these guys. But fortunately, the checkered flag is going to come just in the nick of time.
Yeah, it is. So Shuri is running out of opportunities, though. So he's got to do it really on this lap. Looking at where Jack Wells is, he's sort of in the boot section right now, so it's going to be close whether now we have lost another LMP1. Hayden Wilhelmsen, let's see what's happened to him.
And he did use his fast repair earlier on, of course.
Yes, indeed, and he hasn't had the cleanest of runs today, as Wilhelmsen. He's been in the wars, and unfortunately has ended up very much wedged in that barrier at the entrance to the boot section there. So has not gone well for him today, and we've lost another one. But Shuri, you can see he's very, very close to the back of the car in front of Morten Kofod. He's chased him all race long, and Wells gets across the line just to get another lap in. So these guys will have another lap to go. It was 2 seconds on the clock, and Wells has made it across to make it another lap. So we'll have another chance for Jake Shuri to get through, and he'll be thankful for that, because this is the closest he's been all race long, and he's really putting pressure on. This will be a big move for him to get himself onto the podium here as he comes through the left-hander now. Understeer for the car in front. You see Kofod all the way out to the curb on the right-hand side, but manages to carry the speed. Now through the left-hander, he's going to run out a tiny bit wide here, but you can do that. Flinging into the last corner, make sure not to do too much. Sorensen makes an error in the first corner, and he's got back going. I think he's managed to avoid damage. We don't want to be doing that on the final lap, Thomas Sorensen. Let's see as he comes across to take the white flag. Slows down for the first corner, and does he just get it a bit wrong? Yeah, hops across the curb, and he hits the barrier very hard. Very, very hard. Thomas Sorensen. Now, he'll be thankful that he's got such a big lead, but he's got to try and get that car to the end, because you can see Harley Smith is really bringing the gap down. But nonetheless, Jack Wells has put on a brilliant display overall today, and is going to take his second win of the season. He wins at Watkins Glen and takes his second win of this season so far, and retakes the championship lead. And we will see how things will unfold for the rest, as Daniel Kraft finishes in second. Jake Shuri has got past Morten Kofod. He's just made the move and moves onto the podium. And Daniel Kraft, as you can see, takes second place. There's Shuri battling now. This is a big move as he comes around the outside of the boot section. These guys have been fighting all race long, and you get a front row seat. Justus Marks is getting a front row seat to this as they come now into the braking zone. Shuri trying to come around the outside, bit of contact. He hangs onto it around the outside, but he's going to now just lose that bit of momentum. He's going to have to slot behind Morten Kofod right there, as Burke takes third in class, just about making it on fuel. Loveridge takes second after a very hectic race for him. And Shuri, has he got in front? He has. He's got back by again. It's very, very close between them as they come through, and he has got in front coming into the final corner, and he has made it just about work there. Jake Shuri takes third in P2 and potentially the championship lead in the end. Sorensen, after the big scare, comes across the line and takes a win in P2. Lewis Araya comes home for third, and this man is cruising to the end. Daniel Sibizabo, he's managed to sneak another lap in and almost ends up with a victory lap. Comes around the final corner. Daniel Sibizabo, his second win of the season, and a big one for him in the championship fight as well, and he wins at Watkins Glen in P2 Pro. Well, I didn't expect that at the end, but Sorensen making things very interesting for himself, crashing in the first corner and still coming out with the win.
Yeah, well, all the other class leaders crashed, and maybe Sorensen felt left out and decided to do it himself, but with the lap to go, he was slow on that last lap as well. The gap, I believe, was down to, well, at least according to our timing screens, it was 11 seconds in the end, apparently, as we get a replay of what happened to Shuri and Co on that last lap. But I think it was about 6 seconds or so. He lost about 4 seconds after the crash. So he was lucky that there wasn't another lap, otherwise I think he may have been caught. There was the initial bit of contact. So how on earth does Shuri get into play from here? Because we thought this was done at this point, but then the 225 runs wide, and well, we've been talking about the left front. That was the right front that time, with absolutely no grip, and Shuri really being handed that one there. Will be kicking himself, will Kofod, and well, maybe loses his teammates a little bit of an advantage as well with Mork as well. But yeah, good effort there from Shuri after the poor start, and ends up in 7th place overall in the P2s as we see our final race results.
Yeah, so in the end, despite everything, Jack Wells takes another victory and cements a championship lead at the same time. Matt Loveridge in second, maybe could have won today, but once again makes a little error. Lewis Araya takes third from starting in pole. Roberto De Filippis takes fourth, and Stian Solberg is a very quiet race, and he finishes a P5. Daniel Civizawa, he's won again for the second time, and he finishes in front of his teammate Daniel Croft. Matthias Burke with a very good effort finishes in third, and Tim Perry as well, P4 for him in class. Sorensen, as you mentioned, Sam, probably felt left out, crashed in the final lap, but still gets across the line to take first and his first win of the season. Harley Smith in second, and Jake Shurey in the final two corners takes third in front of Mort Kafode. Lena Wilhelmsen, we're going to get to a bunch of drivers who didn't quite make the finish. Lena Wilhelmsen, Fabio Grassetto, Justus Marks, who did get across the line in the end. Loki Brown with the massive crash at the start. Josh Lane not finishing. Foggy, unfortunately, not making the finish end. Thomas Mork, big names here. Paul Clist, Alexander Lauritsen, James Abram, who did not take the start of this race. But as you can see, some big names not managing to take the checkered flag today. But thankfully, the drivers are much quicker this week, Sam. We've got a couple already in the interview waiting area. And I think we'll bring in the man who finished in, I think, second place in LMP1. I'm going to bring in Matt Loveridge into the box today. Matt, very, very promising start to the race. Start that was leading for the vast majority of that race, and a small error, unfortunately, towards the end, ends up in second.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. A huge combination of problems today, which included my system actually lagging beyond belief, forcing me to miss shifts and apexes, as well as an incorrect setup, which can't deal with the aggressiveness of the curbs. It's a real shame. I mean, I was really looking forward to the fight with Jack. I was also looking forward to the fight with Lockie Brown. Unfortunately, his race was ended early as well due to the bus stop. It's a genuine shame. I wanted a good fight with both of them, but I think Jack deserves it today. He drove extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. We were a little bit gutted as well to see you just slightly go wide there, but yeah, we were interested to see the sort of back and forth between yourself and Jack towards when you were starting to close up. Of course, it seemed like yourself you were getting away a lot in the first sector, and Jack was bringing it back. So obviously, tactical boost was very much a part of this race.
It was. Boost is definitely part of it. One of my tyres, unfortunately, was going down in terms of grip anyway. As it stands right now, the tyres that I'm at are at 35%. So towards the end, I think it was going to be inevitable that I would lose P1 in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we've seen you now come so close to victory on two occasions, one in Daytona and once here. Are we going to see that breakthrough this season? I'm sure we are. But do you think yourself we're going to see it?
Give it time. I'm sure it will happen.
And yeah, just finally, Matt, we're off to Hockenheim in the next round. What are your thoughts going into that?
I don't know. I'm not sure about Hockenheim. It's not really been a prototypey sort of track, so it's going to be quite refreshing to drive an LMP1 around such a high downforce track. So especially with its high angular curves, along with some of the main straight. I do apologise for the stuttering, by the way.
No worries.
Yeah, I think the main straight is definitely where we're going to see a lot of overtakes during LMP 1 and 2 as well. I'm not sure about the corners. They're quite narrow. They can be quite unforgiving around Hockenheim Ring. It's going to be a one to watch, definitely. Maybe there'll be a new winner in both classes.
Well, we certainly hope so as well. But Matt, commiserations on the crash, but congratulations on another second place. We'll see you at Hockenheim.
See you there. Take care.
That was Matt Loveridge. You could hear very disappointed in the end, but I think we feel he's certainly got the pace to do it. But a couple more people standing by to chat. Sam, you have your pick of the bunch?
Yes, I will do. Just before, or just after, I also give a quick shout out to Virtual Racing School. Thanks to them for also sponsoring the series and many of our broadcasts on Apex Racing TV. If you want to improve your on-track performance, then you can get their 50+ data packs for road and oval racing. Those data packs including setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Thanks to Virtual Racing School for helping us out here at Apex Racing. So yes, next up, I will drag in Thomas Sorensen. Thomas, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Excellent. Well, congratulations out there. That is the P2 amateur race win. Apart from the last lap, it looked quite comfortable for you. Lots of other drivers were making mistakes, but you seemed very confident out there.
Yeah, first of all, it's an awesome track. It was very hot in the beginning, especially in the qualifying, beginning of the race, and I really had to push hard the first 20 minutes. But after the pit stop, it was pretty much cruise control and just managing the tires. Yeah, at least until the last lap where I hit the curb, I think, with too much throttle. That was a bit embarrassing and a stupid mistake. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy. Awesome race.
Definitely. I mean, you probably didn't see, but the P2 Pro leader crashed and the LMP1 leader crashed as well. So you kind of made it a hat trick right there. So it was quite nice to see that all end up. Like I said, you were extremely strong out there today. Are you racing in the Watkins Glen 6 hours tomorrow?
No, unfortunately not. I've had other plans, but with this pace, maybe I should change my plans and do so. But no, unfortunately not.
Well, it would be awesome to see you in that race potentially. Talk us through the pit stop strategy. Because did you take tires out there?
No, I didn't take tires. I was hoping that the tires would last, and they did all right. I was struggling a bit in the end of the last stint, but I was just trying to manage the tires as much as I possibly could. But yeah, as I said, it was a really hot track surface, so it was really about being gentle on the throttle out of every corner.
Next week we have Hockenheim. That doesn't match up with any of the official series. Usually, the rounds in this championship match up with either the European sprint schedule or the IMSA sports car schedule. Does that change anything at all for you? I mean, does that mean that you have to work on your own setup instead of getting it from a setup shop, or is it quite the same as normal?
No, I think it's pretty much the same as normal, and I really like Hockenheim. It's one of my favorite tracks on iRacing, so I'm actually looking pretty much forward to racing there. So yeah, I think it's gonna be nice.
Excellent. Well, best of luck that you can make it 2 wins out of 2 next time out, Thomas. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, you guys and everyone at Apex Racing TV for this amazing broadcast, and then of course my team 3J1K Racing, and yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us in the comms box, Thomas, and see you next time.
Will do.
Thomas Sorensen there, your P2 AM winner. Jack, I think we've got one more interview lined up.
Yes, we do. Just one more to left to chat to, and it is Lewis Araya who joins us in the box. Lewis, pole position again, and unfortunately, just like in Daytona, it didn't quite pay off today, but still coming out with a podium.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it was fun to finally get the pole position again. And my driving style does need a little more boost than everyone else's, so my race pace is not quite there yet. But maybe in a couple of rounds, maybe I will be up fighting with the other guys for hopefully.
Yeah, it certainly looks like you're going that way. But yeah, it was an interesting start. Of course, it seemed like Matt and the Audis maybe seemed to have the edge in the first sector, with the Porsches coming back later on. But yeah, it looked. Just talk us through what happened at the pit stop phase. We thought it was a speeding penalty. Or were we right?
Yes, you are completely right. So I got 40 seconds pit stop penalty there. So I hit the wrong button. I pushed, talked to my spotter and not the pit stop limiter. So
At least you're honest.
yeah, yeah, I have to be.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, to be fair, anyone else who's watching has probably done the same thing at some point, and I have done that at some point as well. So, Yeah, we can all empathize with that a little bit, but yeah, it's a solid race overall. Still coming out with third place. Hockenheim next week. I mean, surely you're going to get a win at some point if some comes so close so many occasions now.
I hope you don't curse me, but I hope so. Yeah, but congratulations to Jack and to Matt. The nice driving there. I heard from Stian that Matt had some issues, so. And just there, I got stuck in traffic with the Lmp2s and got a little incident with Daniel Kraft as well. But yeah, I think I didn't have quite the pace to catch Matt after that. So, but yes, it was very fun to race today.
Good stuff. Well, Lewis, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a quick thank you to or a shout out to?
Yeah, of course, always Stian and my other friend Øystein Herfjord, who has helped me this week with the preparations in front of this race.
Great stuff.
And
well,
the other guys in the team that are watching the stream right now.
Good stuff. Well, Lewis, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on your third place.
Thank you so much. Bye.
And that's all she wrote. Lewis Araya with third place right there. But like Sam mentioned, we're now at the over the halfway point, and I think it's going to be an interesting week next week, Sam, because it's Hockenheim, and like many people have said, not really a track you see prototypes at too often.
Yeah, it's really strange that if it hasn't been on the scheduled team match, I mean, maybe just demonstrates how deep the track selection is now on iRacing, that you don't have to go to GP circuits like Hockenheim every single time, that you got lots of other choices. But yeah, I think the cars will fit very well around that. Will be a little bit tricky to overtake around the stadium section. Of course, I imagine if you get stuck behind heading into Sachs corner, then you might not be able to overtake until the French straight, so that could be an interesting element. Could be a bit risky for the P2 cars to have P1s around them, around that part of the track, but the rest of it is very wide, and yeah, will be good to see. Of course, we don't usually see these cars, as far as I'm aware, in real life tackling that circuit, so it will be great to see it on the sim.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. So, well, we're gonna leave it all there. So, thank you all so much for watching here on Apex Racing TV for the ARL Prototype Championship. The 5th round, so not many rounds left to go. For all of you who are competing in the special events tonight and tomorrow, the very best of luck, because that's what we've just given a taster of what the racing is going to be like, and maybe a little bit of hints on strategy as well, if you've been paying attention. But again, thanks to all the sponsors that helped make this possible. Thanks to everyone at Apex Racing League for working so hard putting these championships together, to Apex Racing Academy, to SDK Gaming, and all of the crowd over there. But from all of us here on Apex Racing TV, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.